Welcome to another Telltale Books video. I'm Greg, and I'm going to continue my series about science fiction author Larry Niven in this video with his third published story, still pretty early in his work, titled Wrong Way Street, which was published in Galaxy magazine in April of 1965. And this was a Nebula Award finalist for Best Short Story in 1965. And it is a short story, and it is part of a series loosely titled Time Travel Parallel Universe that involves Wrong Way Street, For a Foggy Night, and All a Myriad Ways. Those three are considered to be part of a loose series of stories. This is kind of old home week for me because I first read this story in 1979 when this collection was published. It's not the first thing I read by Larry Niven, but I think this was the first or second new book that came out by Larry Niven after I had gotten into him. By this time, I had already read a couple of his short story collections. I'd read Ringworld. Ringworld Engineers came out in 1979. And I'd read Neutron Star in Where Do We Go From Here, the anthology by Isaac Asimov. That's where I first encountered Larry Niven in 1977. So I was really, really blown away by him. So when this book was released, I had to have it. Plus, I absolutely love the illustration on the cover. It's very cool. So that's my original paperback of Convergence series, and Wrong Way Street was the last story in that book at the very end of the book. Wrong Way Street is about a character named Mike Capoferri, and he grew up with a dream of wanting to go into space and discover new worlds, wanting to be an astronaut. He studies physics and he makes it. But as a part of a group of scientific people who are sent to the moon because they've discovered an alien artifact on the moon, a base with an alien spaceship is found on the moon. And so he's part of the team going there to try and decipher everything about the base, the spaceship, the aliens who built it. And in working with it, in working with the spaceship in particular, thinking about how they would have traveled the stars, he's convinced that it has to have the capability to travel in time. And when Mike is in school, he has a professor that makes a statement which I thought was a really cool quote, and I pulled it out. Time is a one-way street with no parking spaces. You just have to keep going. That's actually a pretty good statement. But, well, Mike discovers that he's wrong. Time is not a one-way street. You can travel in time, and these aliens invented it, and he mistakenly activates it and goes through time, which then results in an interesting story with an interesting twist ending, which I won't spoil. This is not a great story, but it's a very good story. It's a totally enjoyable science fiction time travel story. If you like those themes, you should enjoy this. This is a good story. I do recommend it. I won't call it a top tale, but I do recommend it for anybody that likes just a good science fiction story. Or, of course, if you love Larry Niven's writing, then this is a must read. This is a classic Larry Niven short story. Of course, It was written in 1965. We hadn't been to the moon yet, and we hadn't yet totally mapped the moon. At this point, we've been to the moon a number of times. We've sent robots to orbit the moon and map the whole thing. We've got pictures of everything. We haven't seen any alien bases or alien spaceships. So that kind of destroys that ability to suspend your disbelief. But in 1965, we didn't have all that. So you could suspend your disbelief and imagine that this story could be true. So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt for that. But otherwise, it is just a solid, decent story. Nothing great. It kind of surprises me that it was a Nebula finalist because it isn't that spectacular. But like I say, it was a Nebula finalist. Didn't win, but it was a finalist. And this was only his third story out. So Niven was doing great things already. So the next story that I'll be reading was 2 months later, June of 1965, also in Galaxy Magazine. It's called One Face. And that story also was in Convergence series. So this is a reread for me. Although, frankly, I don't remember a thing about it. So I'll be looking forward to reading it and talking to you about it in the near future. So have you read Wrong Way Street? Leave your comments about that, about Larry Niven, about time travel, or the moon in the comments section of this video for everyone to see and learn from and enjoy. And please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to our channel and come on back and see. I've got a lot more Larry Niven coming up, and I'm doing a lot of other authors. So come on back and join me.